The night before entering the palace, the emperor came to see me. If it weren't for your family background, I wouldn't want to marry you at all. But the next day, he developed a split personality. At the morning court session, he was all smiles. Thank you. How did you know that the empress and I have been deeply in love for so long? Civil and military officials. What? A young eunuch came to pour tea, only to be forcibly pulled aside and asked, do you also think my shoe pads are beautiful? The empress made them for me. The little eunuch. What? Even while feeding fish in the pond, he kept muttering, hurry up and eat. Grow fat, I'll stew all of you into soup for the empress. Then he turned to threaten the turtle. What are you looking at? Keep staring and I'll turn you into turtle jelly for the empress to eat. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful stories every day. Now the story begins. My great-aunt was an empress, and so was my aunt. So by my generation, my father naturally assumed I should also become an empress. But I've never gotten along with the new emperor, Xie Chen, since we were kids, because his calligraphy is terrible, yet he's particularly fond of inscribing things. The plaque hanging above my family's main gate was inscribed by him. Every time someone asks where the Duke of Zhengguo's residence is, a kind passerby would tell him, it's the one with the ugliest signboard, as repayment. One day I secretly shaved his dog bald. He hugged his balding dog and wailed, asking everyone who did it. I shook my head in denial. Not me. The one I shaved wasn't this bald. He cried even louder. Though the two children disliked each other, my father still secured me an empress position through family connections. The night before entering the palace, Xie Chen climbed over the wall to see me. Standing by my window with a face full of disdain, he said, Lin Yao Yao, you must remember. If it weren't for your decent family background, I wouldn't even consider marrying you. I nodded like pounding garlic. Remembered. Both of my heads have remembered. Xie Chen left satisfied. On the day of the coronation ceremony, before the ceremony began, I sat in Fengyi Palace. By protocol, the emperor and empress were not to see each other. Xie Chen didn't care. Xie Chen came anyway, dressed in imperial robes, looking every bit the proper emperor. All that comes out of your mouth is nonsense. Lin Yao Yao, if it weren't for your father being the Duke of Zhen, your mother the Roman princess, your uncle the general of An, your second uncle the minister of revenue, your cousin the vice minister of justice, after listing them all like a Khan mustering troops, Xie Chen nearly recited my entire family tree before concluding, if not for your family background, I would never have married a nepotism case like you. I pushed aside the obstructive pure gold fringe and retorted, do you think I'd marry you if you weren't the emperor? Silence. The entire room fell silent. The palace maids and matrons wished they could bury their heads in the ground. After all, since ancient times, those who heard such explosive royal secrets never came to a good end. Fortunately, Xie Chen wasn't a tyrant and didn't have them all killed. When leaving, Xie Chen extended his paw to help me, but I mercilessly swatted it away. Are we that close? Keep your hands to yourself. Xie Chen stormed off with a flick of his sleeve. Who on earth came up with all these tedious rituals anyway? Xie Chen and I had to bow to heaven and earth a full 9 times during our wedding ceremony. By the time we completed the entire process and returned to the bedchamber, my stomach was growling with hunger. Xie Chen had the audacity to return only after stuffing himself with food and drink. From the moment he entered until the unveiling of the bridal veil, his mouth never stopped running. Lin Yao Yao, I'll say it once more, I married you purely under duress. Those ministers insisted that as a newly enthroned emperor, I must have a queen from an elite family to support me. After careful consideration, your family background is the only acceptable one. For the sake of the nation, I suppose I'll have to reluctantly make do with you. I was utterly exasperated. Just as I was about to glare at him with disdain, he pulled out a roasted chicken from his robe. Eat up. I swiped it from the imperial kitchen. My anger instantly dissipated. As I gnawed on the roast chicken, a tear fell. Xie Chen was startled. We know you're moved, but don't be too moved. We didn't specifically bring this for you. I hiccuped several times before catching my breath and said, I was choking just now. Xie Chen. I meticulously picked the roasted chicken clean and arranged the bones neatly on the plate. Glancing sideways, I noticed Xie Chen was still there. I tentatively asked, why hasn't your majesty left yet? Xie Chen's face darkened. Where would this emperor go? This is my imperial bedchamber. Oh, my mistake. Sorry about that. First time being an empress, still getting the hang of it. Thought I was still back at my duke's residence. So your majesty intends to sleep here? Xie Chen raised an eyebrow. What else? This is my bedchamber and my bed. Fine then. I hugged the quilt and rolled to the inner side. Xie Chen and I slept back to back. The beds in the palace are truly different, expensive ones just make you sleep more soundly. By the time I woke up, Xie Chen had already left for the morning court session. As I sipped the black chicken soup brewed with 100 cordyceps and ginseng roots, I wiped my nosebleed while listening to the gossip my personal maid, Xiaotsue, had secretly gathered. Your Highness, they say His Majesty had a mental breakdown today. Oh, how exactly did this split happen? I heard that at this morning's court session, as soon as His Majesty arrived at the Golden Luan Hall, before the ministers could even kneel and shout "Long live the Emperor," he beamed with joy and said, "Thank you. How did all my beloved ministers know that the Empress and I have been deeply in love for so long?" She vividly recounted. The entire court was hemming and hawing. Not a single person dared to speak. What a spectacular scene that was. I nearly spat out my mouthful of chicken soup. Did you drug his tea last night? Xiaotsue actually pondered this seriously for a moment. No, miss, I only put half a chen of knockout drops in as you instructed. I swiftly covered her mouth. That's enough, don't say another word. After drinking the chicken soup, I had a bad nosebleed. I thought about having the Imperial Kitchen prepare some blood-nourishing dishes for dinner. With nothing better to do, I decided to take Xiaotsue out for a stroll. I'm the Empress now. Isn't the Imperial Palace my home? It's only right to take a stroll around. I should be allowed into the Imperial study, right? Just as I stepped into the Imperial study, I happened to see a young eunuch pouring tea for Xie Chen. After pouring the tea, Xie Chen grabbed the young eunuch and insisted on questioning him. You also think my shoe pads are nice, don't you? The Empress specially made them for me. Even I, the person involved, find this utterly ridiculous. How the hell can you tell anything through boots? Besides, it wasn't specifically made for him either. Shouldn't there be some token of affection before marriage? I just picked the simplest task, casually stitching some shoe pads to get it over with. The little eunuch's face clearly read, no way, is His Majesty out of his mind? But with his head still attached to his neck, he forced a professional smile and said with great reluctance, Your Majesty's shoe insoles are clearly extraordinary. So every stitch was sewn by Her Majesty the Queen herself. Xie Chen was quite pleased and casually tossed a silver ingot to the young eunuch. You may leave now, I'll review some memorials for a while. The young eunuch hugged the silver, grinning from ear to ear, and happily scurried away. Seeing me was like beholding the god of wealth himself. That exclamation of greetings to Her Majesty the Empress couldn't have been more crisp and cheerful, deafening. Xie Chen and I locked eyes. He cleared his throat awkwardly and withdrew his foot that had been propped on the imperial desk. His expression turned stern as he asked, Why has the Empress come? I casually found a chair and sat down. I came because I wanted to. Xie Chen froze for a moment, clearly not anticipating this response from me. The imperial study is a military and political stronghold. How dare you barge in? He was so furious that he was jumping up and down. I knew your Lin family was up to no good. Marrying you into the palace must have been part of your scheme. Luckily, I am wise and mighty, and saw through your little tricks. I had Xiaotsue place the unfinished chicken soup in front of Xie Chen. Your Majesty, nourish your brain a little, stop imagining things all day long. After Xie Chen finished drinking an entire large bowl of chicken soup, another person in the palace started having nosebleeds. The imperial physician came to take a look, stroking the 3 remaining white hairs of his beard. He put on an air of profound wisdom and said, Though your Majesty and Her Highness are young and vigorous, it would be wise to exercise some restraint. What is he talking about? I don't understand a word. All I know is this imperial physician can start packing his bags tomorrow and retire to his hometown. Xie Chen works late in the imperial study every day. I feel too guilty to sleep when he doesn't return to the bedchamber, mainly because I'd just be woken up anyway. I'd call it silent torment. After I threatened him by wielding a kitchen knife in each hand, he finally stopped staying up late. Now he goes to bed early and rises early. Even dragging me to the imperial garden for morning exercises. Where are my knives? Oh, Xie Chen confiscated them. Although Xie Chen dragged me to do morning exercises, he himself disliked them. He preferred squatting alone by the pond feeding fish. When I finished my Tai Chi routine and went to find him, I discovered him muttering incessantly to the fish in the pond, Hurry up and eat. Grow fat, I'll stew all of you into soup for the Empress. These are all golden carps from the Southern Tribute. Each one is worth a fortune. How could you just decide to stew them like that? I think steaming would be much more suitable. The fish scattered in all directions. Frightened by him, he curled his lips in disdain. Turning his head, he spotted a turtle paddling in the pond and threatened menacingly, What are you looking at? Keep staring and I'll turn you into turtle jelly for the Empress to eat. The turtle scrambled away head first, flailing all four limbs, me. Xie Chen's schizophrenia wasn't just evident in how he treated fish and turtles. That day I went to the imperial study yet again, where he was sighing at a nest of birds outside the window. When will I ever get to kiss the empress? He lamented. Bird, chirp chirp chirp. He left me with a lonely silhouette. Alas, even you mock me with your whole family in tow, who suffers more than I, married to a wife I can only look at, daring to do nothing. Woe is me. Should I muster up the courage to hold the empress's hand tonight? Would the empress think I'm being a rogue and then despise me? This is really troubling me. I was utterly shocked on the spot. You little rascal, you've got two faces, don't you? To prevent Xie Chen from realizing I'd discovered his split personality, I hastily backed out of the imperial study. That evening, Xie Chen indeed came to sit bashfully by my side. Empress, my hands are a bit dry. I took out a tube of hand cream and handed it to him. This will help with the dryness. After Xie Chen finished applying it, he fell silent for a moment before suddenly exclaiming, "Ah, my hands suddenly feel numb. Empress, quickly take a look for me." I was genuinely fooled by him and immediately grabbed his hands to examine them carefully. Who would have thought that scoundrel Xie Chen would turn around and grab my hand, pulling me into his embrace? I leaned against his chest. Listening to the thumping of his heartbeat, I raised my eyes to look at Xie Chen. Xie Chen's breath hitched. He bent down, his lips slowly approaching me. My mind went completely blank. His handsome features gradually enlarged, coming closer and closer to me. In my nervousness, I let out a hiccup. Silence. Silence spread between the two of us. Silence. Tonight's arch bridges, floating bridges, Jiaoju Bridge, 24 bridges. What did the empress eat tonight? I raised a polite yet slightly awkward smile. Leek-filled egg pancake. He forced a dry laugh. In the past, I've never used the word vicious to describe any kind of food, but today I must say it. I listened attentively. He continued, "What a vicious leek-filled egg pancake." My fist clenches to the point of shattering. Tomorrow's tea might need more than just knockout drops, perhaps a laxative too. No one gets to criticize my chive-filled egg pancake. No one, as a daughter-in-law. I must pay my respects morning and evening. During the greetings, the Empress Dowager sat solemnly on the high seat while I fidgeted with my hands below. She skimmed the froth from her teacup without even glancing my way. "Empress, since you've long failed to produce an heir, it's time to consider selecting concubines for the emperor." Xie Chen and I have only been married for half a month. We haven't even had those intimate philosophical discussions yet. How could I possibly have any offspring? But dealing with a difficult mother-in-law, managing the emperor's harem, and taking care of his concubines are all part of a queen's duties. I could only lower my head and force out a few words through gritted teeth. "Your Majesty speaks wisely. This humble consort has learned much." Once outside the palace gates, I dropped the standard, proper, graceful and gentle smile from my face, hopping mad on the spot. If the Empress Dowager were my aunt, would I have to swallow this humiliation today? There was once a saying circulating in the palace, "Empresses may come and go, but the crown prince remains steadfast." The late emperor had 3 empresses in total. Xie Chen was his legitimate eldest son. Empress Li died from postpartum hemorrhage after giving birth to Xie Chen. After which his paternal aunt entered the palace, having no children of her own. She adopted Xie Chen as her own and raised him with devoted care. Later, the aunt passed away. At that time, the Shun family was at the height of its power in the court, so they pushed consort Shun onto the throne as empress. But Empress Shun had her own son, Prince Yu, and she wanted him to become the crown prince. Xie Chen, who was raised under her care, frequently fell ill, sometimes with diarrhea, other times with rashes. Despite everything, Xie Chen stubbornly survived until the age of 15. Once he grew up, it became harder to act against him, so Empress Shun's schemes could only shift toward the position of crown princess. At the palace banquet, she summoned her niece Shun Shushu. "Shushu has grown into a young lady now," she smiled kindly, then abruptly changed the subject. "Oh yes, it suddenly occurred to this humble consort that the crown prince is nearly of marriageable age. Might your Majesty have any plans in mind?" The late emperor, he ran his fingers over the dragon head carved into the armrest and glanced toward the lower end of the hall. "Xie Chen was meticulously peeling shrimp for me, not some childhood sweetheart trope. It's just that I got my hand injured in a fight with him a few days ago, and he's doing this to make amends." The late emperor lifted his chin in our direction with a meaningful smile. "These two children get along quite well." Empress Shun wilted on the spot. My great-grandfather followed the founding emperor into battle with a hoe on his shoulder. After the realm was pacified, he learned to tuck his tail between his legs. sheath his edge, and never stir trouble, engraving honest and dutiful as our family motto, hung in the main hall for daily recitation, so when it comes to pedigree, no one outmatches our house. The night before entering the palace, Xie Chen tossed out the line, "I'm only marrying you for your family name," before striding off, leaving me standing there questioning my entire existence. I hung my head in despair. If he doesn't love me, he'll just keep taking concubines later, all those charming, beautiful women with good temperaments, lovely faces, and perfect figures. The only thing I have going for me is my noble family background. Won't I just be left alone in an empty palace for the rest of my life? My father, no. You won't. You have a good appetite, enjoy your food, and take things in stride. I was momentarily speechless. Father, you're now. Although Xie Chen and Empress Shun were at odds beneath the surface, after Xie Chen ascended the throne, he still honored her as Empress Dowager in accordance with ancestral tradition. Choosing concubines, Xie Chen wouldn't do it, so the Empress Dowager summoned Shun Shushu to the palace under the pretext of missing her relatives, to keep her company. Who didn't know what she was up to. Once in the palace, apart from accompanying the Empress Dowager, Shun Shushu spent the rest of her time wandering around, hoping to accidentally run into Xie Chen. Once, she actually caught us in the act. I was practicing Tai Chi during my morning exercise. While Xie Chen, as usual, squatted by the pond talking to the fish, he happened to catch a slow-moving unlucky turtle, weighing it in his hand. Not bad, it's put on quite some weight. Soon it'll be ready to stew into turtle jelly. Shun Shushu drifted over. Cousin Emperor Tilda. Xie Chen was so frightened that he dropped the turtle and bolted. He fell ill after returning home that day. It was all an act. I wiped my sweat in embarrassment. Why go to such lengths? He looked utterly smug. Self-restraint is beneficial for marital harmony. Then he shamelessly holed up in my Fengyi palace, feigning illness. To make the act convincing, he even had all the memorials brought in. Every day he was carried to court in a palanquin, putting on a sickly act of being half dead with labored breathing. He returned and immediately ordered the gates to be shut tight, setting up a small table to review memorials. Empress Dowager Shun could bear it no longer and summoned a group of imperial physicians. Personally storming into the Phoenix Palace, she smiled with thinly veiled hostility. "Your Majesty, I heard you were ill and have specially brought some imperial physicians to see you." Having caught wind of it beforehand, Xie Chen had long been prepared, curling up under the quilt, rolling his eyes and shivering. "Investigate for this dowager." A group of imperial physicians took turns feeling his pulse, yet none could make head or tail of it, only kneeling on the ground and stammering incoherently. In the end, she left in a fit of impotent rage, leaving behind a group of trembling physicians. I called for them to rise and instructed Xiaotsue to bring reward money. No one dared to accept it. They all began kowtowing with loud thuds. "Your Majesty the Emperor's sacred body is unwell. We officials are ignorant. We are filled with trepidation." These senior imperial physicians had their careers dealt an unprecedented blow for the first time. Xie Chen was trembling violently, yet his pulse diagnosis revealed nothing. Such a bizarre condition was truly beyond his experience. I took a sip of tea, glanced at Xie Chen shaking like a sieve on the bed, and remarked nonchalantly, "Actually, His Majesty has no serious issues. It's just a bit of kidney deficiency." Xie Chen immediately stopped trembling, kicking off the blanket and springing up. "This emperor is not deficient," I shrugged. "See, all better now." The imperial physicians exchanged uneasy glances. "Well, this is." After dismissing everyone, I closed the door behind me. Before turning around, an ominous premonition settled over my heart. "Lin, Yarrow, Yarrow." Xie Chen spoke word by word. A chill ran down my spine, and I hunched my shoulders. "I never noticed before you're so concerned about me." He grabbed me, his gaze dangerous. "Why not give it a try?" Outside the window, the sun and moon took turns, from clear skies washed by bright winds to the fading Milky Way as dawn stars dimmed. Finally, pulled into Xie Chen's thoroughly satisfied embrace, I drifted into sleep with every muscle aching and discomfort lingering. For the first time, I slept so lightly that I woke just as dawn was barely breaking. Xie Chen was sleeping soundly beside me. I sat up and gazed at him in the hazy dawn light filtering through the window. His features were striking: elegant brows, a high-bridged nose, sharp jawline, and a prominent Adam's apple that exuded natural authority. It was an innate, regal severity, the kind that belonged solely to those born to command, but at this moment, he was sleeping soundly, breathing evenly, his long lashes fluttering slightly, with a faint smile lingering at the corners of his lips, adding a touch of gentleness to his demeanor. I went up and punched him. What a jerk, I'm feeling terrible right now. How dare you sleep so peacefully? Xie Chen, whom I had punched awake, was still dazed as he grabbed my hand and kissed it. Yao yao. Let's sleep a little longer. I kicked him in dissatisfaction. Get up, you need to move out immediately. No more freeloading in my palace. Xie Chen began pretending to be deaf and mute. The damned emperor lay sprawled on the bed like an immovable mountain. Pushing wouldn't budge him. Kicking made no difference. Furious, I stepped right over him and stormed toward the door, shouting, if you won't leave, then I will. Fine, I'll go. Xiaotsue. Send word to my father, tell him to send someone for me today. My back ached, my legs felt weak, dragging my slippers, my skirt tangled around my feet, and I stumbled, smacking my head against the doorframe. Clang, ouch, I've got to tear down this doorframe before I leave. My parents were quite surprised to see me return, but they still welcomed me warmly. My father pressed me down at the dining table. My dear child, have you suffered any grievances in the palace? Your father will stand up for you. The Duke's residence will always be your home. Mother served me soup and dishes. Eat more. What would you like to eat tomorrow? I'll have the servants prepare it. The next day, it became, don't just lie around in the house all the time. Go out and get some fresh air when you're free. There's leftover food in the kitchen. Help yourself if you're hungry. On the third day, they packed me up along with the luggage and tossed me onto the carriage. I was completely baffled. Didn't you promise this would be my forever home? Mom closed the car door. I was just being polite for a moment. How could you take it seriously? And just like that, I was kicked back like a ball. I returned to the palace in frustration. This was so embarrassing. I needed to come up with an excuse to save face. Strolling and lost in thought, I accidentally bumped into Shinshushu, who was wandering about. Upon seeing me, a triumphant smile spread across her face. I heard big sister went home because she was throwing a tantrum with the emperor brother. Why are you back again? I glanced at the large tree not far behind Shinshushu. Xie Chen sneakily poked his head out, muttering something under his breath. Who's that? My empress has returned. I'm so happy. Spinning, jumping, doing the splits, hiding behind a tree to admire my empress's beauty. I couldn't hear him, but I can read lips. So you like hiding behind trees to admire my beauty, huh? Then I'll let you admire to your heart's content. I rolled up my sleeves, tousled my hair, and glared at Shinshushu. Is the imperial palace your home? Your home? What cousin? I'm your sixth uncle if anything. The palace is my home, and here I call the shots. I come and go as I please. I can make you enter smoothly, and I can make you leave just as smoothly. In the heat of the moment, as I spoke, I suddenly hopped on one foot, took off my embroidered shoe, and hurled it at her. Missed. I'll throw another one. Shinshushu was so frightened that she immediately took to her heels. After venting her emotions, the frustration of being kicked out of the house by her parents was indeed greatly relieved. No wonder the ancestors said that life lies in movement. I wiped my sweat with satisfaction. Combat power unknown, grows stronger when facing stronger opponents. Discard all decorum. My heart soars free. Xie Chen, who had witnessed the entire scene from behind a tree, approached cheerfully. Reaching out to grab my hand. Yao yao, come back with this emperor. Blinded by bloodlust, I kicked him flying. You scram too. Xie Chen rolled halfway before I called him back. Come back, carry me. I don't have shoes. Hearing this, Xie Chen cheerfully carried me back to Fengyi Palace. He wanted to stay for dinner, so I snapped every single pair of chopsticks in Fengyi Palace, holding the last pair of chopsticks and looking at him innocently. Your Majesty, there's only one pair left. If you want to eat, you'll have to use your hands. Xie Chen pondered for a moment. We are not hungry. We still have state affairs to attend to. We shall take our leave. At night, that terrifying man Xie Chen attempted to step into Fengyi Palace again, but I blocked him at the door with outstretched arms. You can't come in. He was utterly confused. Why? I'm a married woman. Please keep your distance. He laughed in anger. I am your husband. I slammed the door shut with a bang. No excuses. After a while, rustling sounds came from the direction of the courtyard wall. I threw on my outer robe and ran over, just in time to see Xie Chen leaping down from the top of the wall, landing steadily right in front of me. Seriously, why is he climbing walls again? We stood there staring at each other for what felt like half an incense stick's worth of time. A cold wind blew past, making me shiver. What are you doing here? Xie Chen raised his chin, utterly unapologetic. I'm not your husband. Why do you care what I'm here for? I shot him a sidelong glance and shouted, Guards, there's an assassin. Xie Chen swiftly covered my mouth and dragged me into the house. The palace maids and guards arrived belatedly, knocking on the door and asking, Your Highness, are you all right? Your Highness, Where is the assassin? Xie Chen cleared his throat and said with exaggerated flair, the assassin has already been driven away by us, outside. A chorus of tilde rose from the crowd. Xiaozue took the lead in flattering the emperor. Your Majesty is truly formidable, wielding the brush to pacify the realm with civil arts and mounting the steed to stabilize the empire with martial prowess. Xie Chen was very pleased and immediately promoted Xiaozue to first-rank palace maid of the Phoenix Palace. After the crowd of flatterers outside the door dispersed, I tugged at Xie Chen's sleeve and winked at him. Your Majesty. Would you like to admire the moon? Xie Chen nodded. Since the Empress wishes to see it, this emperor can reluctantly accompany. Before he could finish his sentence, I kicked him out the door. Let's go outside to watch. You can see better out there, lying in bed at night, tossing and turning, unable to sleep. It must be that Xie Chen broke the door when he went out. Otherwise, why would I keep feeling a draft coming from somewhere? When you can't sleep, it's easy to start overthinking things. Did I go a bit too far with Shen Shushu this morning? After all, she is the niece of the Empress Dowager, a member of the imperial family. My scarce conscience began to ache faintly. I turned over. After some thought, Shen Shushu's father isn't as good as mine. Her mother isn't as good as mine. Her uncles, second uncle, and cousins are all inferior to mine. Even her aunt, the Empress, only got the position because my aunt passed it up. No matter how you look at it, my connections are stronger. In that case, I'm completely justified. My conscience doesn't ache at all. I turned over again. But if we follow that logic, wouldn't Xie Chen be able to ride roughshod over me and treat me like a dog? Forget it, forget it. Above me, all beings are equal. Below me, the hierarchy is clear. Yes, that's exactly it. Sleep, now. Didn't they say mornings and evenings would be cool? Then why am I so hot sleeping at night? I want to kick the blanket off, but it's like it's grown onto me, stubbornly clinging to my body. This is absolutely unbearable. The next morning, the moment I opened my eyes, I saw Xie Chen's big face right in front of me. He was holding me, sleeping soundly without a care in the world. I hadn't slept well and was in a foul morning mood. So I kicked him straight off the bed. Xie Chen lay on the floor, still fast asleep. Good, very good. I crouched down, leaned close to Xie Chen's ear, and shouted with full vigor, fire, the fire's burning your butt. Xie Chen sprang up in an instant, rubbing his bleary eyes. Where's the fire? Where's my Empress? I must take the Empress with me. I can't leave her behind. I'm soft-hearted after all. Might as well make peace with him. In the afternoon, I received a letter from my parents. They wrote telling me to treat Xie Chen better and not to keep running home at every turn. They also mentioned that my uncle is about to get promoted soon, and so is my cousin. This is a crucial time when we must butter him up properly and avoid bringing Xie Chen bad luck. After reading this heartfelt letter, I felt my parents made very valid points. Only with solid backing could I swagger through the palace unimpeded, to mend my relationship with Xie Chen. I specifically had Xiaozue fetch a lively free-range chicken from the imperial kitchens. I personally stewed a bowl of chicken soup for Xie Chen, then sprinkled a handful of vibrant green scallions on top with my own hands. Xiao Kui helped me carry it all the way. At the entrance of the imperial kitchen, I took it back from her hands, then personally brought it in to serve Xie Chen. Xie Chen was reviewing memorials without even lifting his head. But he seemed to catch the scent of chicken soup and frowned, saying, I don't want chicken soup, take it away. I placed the soup bowl by his hand, pitching his voice high. Your Majesty really won't drink it. I made it with my own hands. I felt slightly disgusted with myself. Xie Chen's hand holding the brush trembled slightly as his voice rose. How did the Empress know that chicken soup happens to be this Emperor's favorite, while Xie Chen was busy drinking his chicken soup? I seized the opportunity to make extravagant demands, reciting everything my father had instructed me to say in his letter. Your Majesty, my uncle has toiled with great merit. Granted, Your Majesty. My cousin is utterly loyal. Granted, your servant. Xie Chen agreed without hesitation. All granted, all of it. After all, I married the Empress primarily for her noble lineage, so naturally I can't let her be outshone in this regard. No one should dare surpass my Empress. I felt a little happy. In the evening, Xie Chen came to the Phoenix Palace. This time, I didn't drive him away. He wrapped his arm around my waist as we walked inside. He whispered in my ear, I've fulfilled all of the Empress's requests, so shouldn't the Empress also fulfill one of mine? I was somewhat bewildered. You're the Emperor, what could you possibly lack? Xie Chen softly uttered a few words. The next moment, my face turned as red as if it had been scorched by fire. I told Xiaozue to rest early tonight and that she needn't attend to me. Holding Xie Chen's hand, We passed through layers of drapes. After trimming the candle wick, we sat together on the edge of the bed, where my trembling fingers undid the dragon-patterned button at his collar. That night, Xie Chen coaxed and deceived me by turns. Only when my voice grew hoarse from crying did he finally embrace me as we sank into deep sleep. Being a queen is truly difficult. No credit for achievements. No recognition for hardships, just endless exhaustion. In his dazed state, he seemed to say something more, but I couldn't make out a single word. I was so exhausted that I slept straight through the whole day. When I woke up, the room felt pitch dark. Xiaotsue, light a lamp. I called for a long time before Xiaotsue finally arrived. Dragging her feet, the way she avoided my gaze made me feel something was off. Xiaotsue watched me finish the water, then cautiously asked if I wanted to sleep a while longer. I rubbed my throbbing temples. No more sleep, or I'll turn into an idiot. Help me get dressed, I need to go out and stretch my limbs. Yet long after I'd spoken, Xiaotsue remained frozen in place, unmoving. This only deepened my confusion. So I simply dressed myself. When I tried to step outside, Xiaotsue bit her lip and stopped me. Your Highness, it's cold outside, you'd better not go out. What's wrong with this girl? I muttered to myself as I pushed the door open, only to be met by two gleaming swords blocking my way. I was stunned and turned to look at Xiaotsue. What's going on? Xiaotsue was on the verge of tears. Your Highness, His Majesty said. His Majesty said the Duke of Zhengguo's estate is suspected of embezzlement and rebellion. Woo-woo, embezzlement and rebellion. These words floated before my eyes. I just couldn't connect them with the Duke of Zhengguo's estate. Wouldn't rebellion mean becoming emperor if it succeeds? Getting up earlier than roosters every day, how could my father endure that? I decided to go ask Xie Chen about it, but the guards at the door told me Xie Chen had personally issued an imperial decree. Don't let me step out this door. Fine, fine. You tormented me yesterday, and today you're tormenting my whole family. Xie Chen, you're really something. Xiaotsue and I tried many ways, but none could get us out of the house. Xie Chen might as well be the worm in my gut. He's blocked off every single place I could think of, especially that mouse hole in the backyard corner. Never mind that the hole's barely the size of my fist. How do I get out of here? I was anxious like this for many days. I successfully caught a fever. Xiaotsue said to the guards at the door, Her Majesty the Empress is suffering from internal heat. Do you understand? It's very serious. Quickly let me out to fetch the imperial physician to save Her Majesty. The guards whispered among themselves for quite some time. After about half an hour, the imperial kitchen sent over several bowls of mung bean soup. They said it was by His Majesty's order if one was suffering from internal heat, they should drink more of this heat-clearing, detoxifying mung bean soup. Looking at those bowls of mung bean soup, why do I feel like my internal heat has only worsened? 3 more days passed, and a rustling sound came from the doorway. The lead guard informed me that the punishment for my father had been decided. I was to be stripped of my noble status and exiled to Tongju along with my parents. Oh ho, youth knows no price. The 9 clans go straight to cremation. I really suspect Xie Chen is sick. Is this a decision a human could possibly make? Xiaotsue helped me board a carriage. I fell into deep thought as I gazed at the carriage's lavish interior. What kind of exile rides in a gilded carriage? If you want me dead quickly, just say so. No need for roundabout methods. If you want my life, just tell me directly. I spent the entire journey in the carriage eating and sleeping, living a life of pure comfort. At every stop, local delicacies were brought to me to enjoy. I ate so much that I began to question the meaning of life. Is Xie Chen trying to fatten me to death? Xiaotsue hesitated before speaking. Miss, just a few days ago you were still trying to kill yourself. I cleared my throat awkwardly and wiped the grease from my lips. Well, the damned emperor hasn't explicitly said he wants me dead yet. One must live in the present moment. Let's just wait for his notice first. Then he tore open the oiled paper wrapping the salted duck. Here, try this duck, just chopped. Xiaotsue wore a look of disdain, but her actions betrayed her. Eating until her mouth was slick with grease, bored, I lifted the carriage curtain to look outside and couldn't shake the feeling this wasn't the road to Tongju. Could Xie Chen be planning to kill me without anyone noticing midway? Xiao Kui and I whispered to each other, deciding to jump off the carriage and escape. Just as we were about to divide tasks, one of us would leap out to distract the guards while the other threw pepper powder in their faces. The carriage suddenly stopped. The handful of pepper I grabbed was all shoved into my own mouth. I choked and coughed so hard I cried for my parents. Wah, sob sob help me. Out of nowhere, my dad and mom rushed over, flustered as they carried me inside and gave me water to drink. Looking at my father and mother, who had grown excessively plump before my eyes, along with my uncle, my second uncle, and my cousin. They were currently staring at me with the kind of look one reserves for observing monkeys. A person only lives once, but can die repeatedly. Anyone with eyes could see the Empress Dowager was plotting rebellion. Shenshushu's lingering in the palace was also for surveillance and laying the groundwork. Xie Chen turned the scheme to his advantage, ostensibly banishing my entire family from court to create the illusion of discord between ruler and subjects, lowering their guard through feigned weakness. After his ascension, he used the pretext of enfeoffment to send Prince Sheng to the northwest to endure hardship, bordering barbarian lands where conflicts frequently erupted. The prince took advantage of recruiting guards to raise an army, amassing 250,000 troops through training and conscription. Having bribed officials along the route, he planned to exploit the empire's vulnerability and stage a coup to usurp the throne. The capital and nearby cities could mobilize far fewer than 250,000 troops. Prince Sheng thought he had pulled off something grand, but he was wrong. Warfare was never about sheer numbers. Bai Qi defeated 400,000 Zhao troops with just 150,000 men, and Zhong Liao routed Sun Quan's 100,000 with a mere 800. The late emperor had secretly deployed cavalry archers, light infantry, heavy formations, and naval forces, totaling no more than 60,000, organized into 4 elite armies: Scarlet Flame, Divine Might, Dragon Scale, and Celestial Strategy. The Crimson Flame guards the north, the Divine Might secures the south, the Dragon Steed defends the west, and the Celestial Strategy protects the east. This is Yongju. Under the pretext of this exile, Xie Chen handed the Crimson Flame Army's military tally to the Lin family. The other 3 armies were also mobilized, biding their time and conserving strength, preparing to march to the capital to purge the court of corrupt officials. When the troops returned to the capital, "I will follow them back. They stopped me. You shouldn't go, it's not safe." No, I insisted on going. I can't leave him alone in the capital to face everything. Although Xie Chen and I have never gotten along since childhood, constantly bickering every few days, there's no other fool in this world who would treat me as well as he does. At this moment, I feel I should stand by his side. The rebellion plot is quite cliched. Court censors submitted memorials impeaching Prince Cheng, listing several major charges: minting coins privately, recruiting troops, oppressing the people, and bribing officials. The Empress Dowager, being Prince Cheng's birth mother, needed to explain and exonerate her son at this critical moment, so she summoned Xie Chen to the palace for tea and conversation. At first, the two maintained a superficial facade of maternal kindness and filial piety, then tore off all pretenses and began quarreling. The Empress Dowager smashed a cup as a signal, and assassins hiding behind the screen immediately surrounded Xie Chen. Meanwhile, Xie Chen's secretly arranged guards leaped in from the trees outside the window, and both sides clashed in a chaotic melee. Over the next 5 days, the conflict escalated. Prince Sheng stormed into the capital, and Xie Chen's 4 elite forces arrived soon after. With the imperial palace under siege, the Scarlet Flame Army crushed the rebel forces and breached through the Shiji Gate. Just as they were about to charge in to rescue the emperor, startled, I heard 9 solemn bell tolls from due north of the imperial palace. The resonant strokes, powerful and clear, lingered and echoed before dissipating into the chaotic sky. My heart sank abruptly. Before reaching 10, the 9th had already ceased. The long bell tolls in mourning. The Son of Heaven has passed. Amidst the chaos and clamor, an army approaches the Hall of Supreme Harmony. The Empress Dowager recognizes the banners as those of Prince Cheng's forces. Clutching the imperial seal, she stands directly before the palace gates, reveling in the pandemonium as she laughs wildly, her demeanor bordering on madness, a night steeped in bloodshed and upheaval. The flames surged upward with billowing black smoke, while flashes of blood-red and glinting blades darted rapidly, stinging one's pupils with pain. Yet all these scenes now appeared before her eyes like the roaring fireworks of New Year's Eve, dazzling, brilliant, dizzying, and utterly mesmerizing. Moments later, the armored troop came to a halt before her. At their head stood a figure clad in golden scale armor, wielding a rainbow sword. With fresh blood splattered across the silver mask, still wet, still dripping downward, with a stride of his military boots. He stepped forward and knelt on one knee in salute, presenting the wooden box he held in his hands. The Empress Dowager helped him up, then took the box, her excitement barely contained. "My son, your lifelong wish to ascend the throne has finally come true." But when she saw the severed head inside the box, She let out a piercing scream and stumbled backward uncontrollably. Mother Empress. The Prince of Shang removed his mask. The flickering firelight and sword glints cast a murderous aura across his brows and eyes. He gazed at her with mocking amusement in his eyes. The throne of the Supreme Sovereign has always been firmly in my grasp, my child. Xie Chen raised his sword, thrust it in and pulled it out with practiced ease. Blood splattered. Yet he watched without blinking. The atmosphere was heavy, an aura of gloom enveloping him. No one dared to speak in his presence. Xie Chen had never met his birth mother, once. He had wanted to build a good relationship with the Empress Dowager. On Prince Sheng's birthday, the Empress Dowager embroidered a brocade pouch for him to hold a protective talisman. Xie Chen saw it and was filled with envy, so he cautiously brought it up, but the Empress Dowager coldly scolded him. You're already over 10 years old, why are you still obsessing over such things all day? When he fell ill with a cold and ran a high fever, his consciousness was hazy. He grabbed a corner of the Empress Dowager's sleeve and called out Mother, but she shook him off as if avoiding something foul, hastily ordering servants to burn mugwort. In the most sensitive and fragile years of his youth, the boy's sincere heart was dashed to the ground again and again, shattered beyond repair. Mother, Queen. His expression was weary and defeated. With a clang, he threw his long sword to the ground. I've called you Mother Queen for so many years, was there ever a single moment you truly treated me as your own? Xie Chen, I cried out. He turned his head, a fleeting glimmer of light flashing in his eyes for just a moment, but the next second, he averted his gaze and told me not to come closer. I paid no heed. Running forward to embrace him tightly, he stiffened momentarily, then after a pause, wrapped his arms around me in return. Warm tears silently fell. He rested his chin on my shoulder and murmured, Lin Yao Yao, shouldn't you be in Yongju? Why did you come back here? Why did you come? I just killed someone. The stench of blood is so strong on me. Aren't you afraid of being frightened? None of that matters, none of it. I patted his back soothingly and said, I won't leave you alone. Late at night, a group of people sat together reviewing the events. Xie Chen feigned weakness to lure the enemy, putting himself in danger to set a long trap for a big catch. In the end, through meticulous coordination with all parties, he successfully outmaneuvered Prince Sheng and the Empress Dowager in one fell swoop. I listened while nodding repeatedly, then asked sincerely, so, after tagging along for this whole trip, what exactly was my role in all this? In this round, everyone had their own roles and worked in perfect coordination, only me running back and forth from south to north. Then north to south, just tagging along the whole time without doing a thing. This makes me look totally useless. Uncle, second uncle, and cousin exchanged glances at my question, then reacted with startling uniformity, whistling, looking for things, swatting mosquitoes, pretending to be extremely busy, their eyes darting everywhere but at me. I don't know, just filling the numbers. Mascot. In the end, it was my father who hit the nail on the head. Perhaps you just enjoy being on the move. I gritted my teeth. What a thoroughly satisfying purge of the court. Xie Chen tapped my forehead with his index finger, his tone slightly exasperated. Silly, didn't I already tell you what my plans were? Is there? I was already exhausted and fell asleep while he was talking. Can't blame me for that. Thanks to Prince Sheng and the Empress Dowager, they made a complete mess of things, and now Xie Chen and I have to clean up this huge disaster. Firefighting fees, site cleanup costs, repairs for partially burned rooms, replanting and maintenance of vegetation, compensation and emotional distress payments. Yet another huge expense. My head ached from reviewing the accounts. So Xie Chen waved his hand decisively and confiscated the properties of the Empress Dowager's family and the Prince of Sheng's mansion. Just 2 days after things settled down, I found another excuse to visit my parents' home, hold the full-month celebration at the Duke of Zhengguo's residence. Xie Chen set down his brush. I stood by the desk with a sincere expression. Who's having a full moon celebration? He scratched his head in puzzlement. Did your little nephew arrive, or did the big yellow dog at your doorstep have puppies? Neither. I shook my head repeatedly. It's me, you, exactly. I said seriously. The day after tomorrow marks my 231st month. He fell silent. The fact that I could come up with such a lame excuse proves how much I genuinely love going home. The weather was nice, so my dad and I were sitting outside, basking in the sun, munching on sunflower seeds, and chatting about everyday things. I looked at him and suddenly blurted out, startled. My dad dropped his seeds and touched his face. Your old man was once ranked the 154th most handsome man in the capital. Even though my prime has passed, a man at 50 is like a flower in bloom. No matter what, I shouldn't be so ugly that it makes you sick, right? In his eyes, there was a mix of 3 parts fear, 4 parts lack of confidence, 1 part confusion, and 92 parts self-doubt. I tried to soothe his fragile heart and explained, Dad, I just before going to bed that night. For once, I didn't kick Xie Chen out. Instead, I lay in front of him, letting him hold me as we chatted. His palm was warm, pressed against my belly like a traditional hot water bottle. I asked, what name should we give our child? Without hesitation, he replied, Xie Muyao. That's so tacky, stop it. I wanted to pinch his mouth shut and sew it up. So the topic of our discussion shifted to why Xie Chen liked me. I try hard to recall, because the Empress Dowager never embroidered that brocade pouch for you back then. I did it for you, Xie Chen. Because I'm good looking, because I'm a good cook. He fell silent. I gritted my teeth in anger. What do you mean by that? You think I can't cook well? No, he said, taking my hand and kissing it. Does loving someone need a reason? For their looks, their talent, or because you like their cooking? But what kind of love is it if you can list reasons? I love you because you're you, and that's all there is to it. Quite satisfied with his answer, I nodded, then circled back to the original topic. So, you're still saying my cooking isn't good? He came over, both annoyed and amused, to pinch me. You'd better go to sleep now. The Milky Way cascaded down as I closed my eyes for a night of sweet dreams. Time stretches endlessly, yet Xie Chen and I shall grow old together, our hair turning white in shared years. The end.